Hello, good morning, everyone. You are with GovInsider Live Indonesia, and in this session, we will be discussing about city transformation. Thanks to our partner AWS for helping to make this session happen today. My name is Dr. Mulia Amri. I am a research director at katadata.co.id, and I will be your moderator. Joining us over the next hour are four great speakers. First of all, we have Dr. Emil Elistianto Dardak, Vice Governor of East Java. Pak Emil, good morning.
Good
Thank you for
morning.
joining us.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Thank you for joining us. I know you have a very busy schedule. You are co-leading a province of 41 million people. That is huge, almost as big as Argentina, 44 million.
I never take count of that.
Thank you, Pak Emil. Our second speaker, we have Pak Setiaji, Head of ICT for West Java Province. Pak Setiaji, welcome. Good morning to you as well.
Hello, morning.
Setiaji is a very celebrated individual. Prior to heading the ICT of West Java, he headed the Jakarta Smart City Office for 4 years and won many national and international awards, including the GovInsider Innovation Awards in 2016. Thank you, Pak Aji, for joining us.
Thank you.
Our third speaker is Ms. Lee Chiu Tan, Managing Director for ASEAN Worldwide Public Sector Amazon Web Services. Good morning, Lee Chiu.
Good morning. Hi, everyone.
Hi, it's great to have you here. Lee Chiu works with public sector organizations to leverage AWS cloud technology to drive innovation and initiatives that positively impact the life of citizens. And she is also on board of the Singapore Heart Foundation. Welcome to our panel. Our fourth speaker is Mas Rama Aditya, founder and CEO of Clue. Good morning, Mas Rama.
Hello guys, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, welcome. Great to have you here. You have a master's information system from Strayer University, and you also practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I don't want to mess with you, but it's great to have you here. We are going to have a great session. More specifically, we will be discussing two topics related to city transformation. First, we will discuss about a vision for the future in the context of this new normal. And then secondly, we will talk about the practicalities and the challenges of public service delivery and how technology can help governments to do that. So to everyone has joined us here, welcome. And a reminder that we will be putting your questions to the speakers as well at the end. So if you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A box for me to see. And then after our discussion, we will have time for a couple of questions which we'll pose to the panelists. So please write them in the Q&A box. Okay, great. So everyone, we'll start with first the part one of the session where we will talk about the vision for the future and in this context of the new normal. I will start with Vice Governor Emil. Vice Governor, I'm really excited to welcome you here. You have a doctorate degree from Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University in Japan, and you are also the only Indonesian mayor previously who participated in the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative back in 2018. So if we're talking about vision, I'm very sure you have a lot of vision. I will ask you first, what is your vision about the future of government? What gets you excited about government in the future? Please, Pak Emil.
Well, if we talk about governments, of course, it feels like you can do everything. Is a very omnipotent role. Being a government, everything depends upon. But at the same time, when you are within the government, you realize how powerless you are with the limited resources to do things that are needed. So, you know, it's always fascinating to see how those two perspectives can be totally opposite to each other. I mean, the people always believe that my whole problem is because of an incompetent government, you know, and when the government say, you know, my whole problem is the fact that the society relies too much on us, you see, and these two positions clash. But I really believe that technology is going to bridge those two views, in the sense that, this whole omnipotency of government can actually be realized. At the same time, this whole self-standing or self-empowerment of citizens can also be realized by virtue of technology. We believe that, the fact is, as we go further in Indonesia with this whole political transformation, reforms, and democracy, leaders seek elections and popularity by establishing policies that appeal to the broader base of the electorates, and that includes providing free A, free B, free C. You see, everything is all free. It's all consuming resources, promising to do more, promising to cover more, promising to serve more. But at the same time, we know that the growth in promises is not what do you call that? Is not proportional to the growth in resources. You can't tax more to the society, because if you begin taxing more, then it will render your government less competitive. So you can't say that, because I can do more because I'm going to earn more from my budget, and therefore I can do more. And when that happens, it's going to be counterproductive, because the sense is we are going to tax too much to the economy. So that's why I'm a firm believer that more is less. We can do more by spending less. Now, how do we do that? The only way is technology. And the problem is putting on the table a notion that can appeal to the political stakeholders, the grassroots voters, is not that easy when you talk about complex technologies. You see, when you say, look, we're going to make the street more smart by putting in intelligent CCTVs, by putting in these kind of equipment, that kind of equipment, converting that into a real return on investment is not that easy. To say, okay, how much do you generate by doing so? You see, it's not that easy, and that becomes a very challenging, especially because all the novelty of innovation, sometimes you can't really do it on a public procurement conventional wisdom of checking in which one has the lowest price. You see, this is not like buying hardwares where who can give me the cheaper LCD monitor, who can there's a very profound aspect into technological solutions, and that's where governments always find it difficult to do that. So Ms. Lee Chiu from AWS and I, actually prior to COVID-19 outbreak, we were having a very serious talk, and we were about to launch what we call as a launchpad for public sector cloud computing solution. This whole beauty of cloud computing is the fact that government do not need to put in that big upfront investments on servers and licenses of software. Instead, they can actually do it at their own pace. They can begin implementing it and gaining traction and start generating some kind of impact and scale up accordingly, you see. And that's the beauty of it. All the time we're so constrained with hardware limitations, constrained with software licenses, and that discourages government to take on new things in terms of public sector solutions. So this launchpad that we were planning to launch at the Special Economic Zone for Digital in Singosari, which is in Malang area. Why we chose that place? Because there is a Special Economic Zone already officiated by the President through a presidential regulation decree. Second is also the fact that it's very near to Malang and Surabaya. And Malang is the education hub of East Java, if not for Indonesia. And it's a very vibrant city. Some very dynamic universities, private universities like Bina Nusantara and Machung has established their footings there as well, including also the more traditional, not traditional, but the more well-known universities like Brawijaya, for example, and a lot of private universities like the Muhammadiyah and everything. It's all there, and Universitas Islam Malang. So it's a very big city with 500,000 of the population. Nearly 500,000 are college students. So we wanted to establish that. Now, our selling point to Ms. Lee Chu and the whole AWS lineup at that time was that East Java is a big province, as you said, 41 million people, 38 municipalities, more than 7,000 rural governments who are right now given greater mandate to govern their own jurisdictions. And we're saying that AWS has a plethora of solutions that they all can offer. But the problem is these solutions are not ready to use unless they actually, start putting in the action on the ground. So what we offer is, all your developers, your partners, we give them red carpet, come here, we'll link them up, we'll make this a hub for all governments to try out with very minimum level of resources they have to spend up front. They can start doing so, and the developers can gain greater traction, you see? And that's the beauty of it. That's why we call it a launch pad. And we strictly do it for cloud computing first, and the partnership between the Special and Economic Zone and AWS has resulted in a number of SMK, vocational high school students, obtaining cloud computing certifications that are expected by the industry. So that's the start.
Wonderful. Vice Governor, that's great news. I really like how you start with power and powerlessness, and then you went through self-empowerment of citizens, but also you went through a very concrete policy of having a launch pad in Malang. Katadata's research also showed Malang as one of the higher performing cities in Indonesia for digital competitiveness. So that's actually great. And I like how you said technology, you can provide more with less through technology. Now, so the next question that I'm going to ask is to Pak Setiaji. Jumping in from what the Vice Governor has mentioned about technology, I would like to ask about to Pak Setiaji. Pak Setiaji also, as I mentioned previously, he has won several awards for Smart City, and now he's continued to win technology awards for West Java as well. So, Pak Setiaji, how important is technology to your vision for West Java?
Yeah, maybe the first thing we need to know about the positioning first. Actually, this is different thing when we in private sector and in the government sectors. Yeah, in private sector, the technology itself is maybe to achieve some money or some things for the gains. But for the governments, it's need to service the citizens for public delivery. And the next thing is we need to know more about the situations. For example, West Java, this is the biggest province in terms of the populations. We have 48 million people, and
wow, very big.
Of them live in villages. Because of that, we need to know about the infrastructures, the human resources, and also the budget itself. Yeah, I think the challenges is the budgets. Because of that, we need to make some strategies, to solve of the issues, not only infra, human resources, and also many things for the data, governance, and also the important thing is applications. Yeah, actually we have some vision we call the 360. Yeah, 360 is mean like 360 degrees. How we can change, for example, like COVID now, we can change everything using the technology. In terms not only about in terms of the digital literates. Now I think everybody can use the Zoom or the communication using the applications or something to teleconference. And because of that, the 360 is how we can change 360 degrees. The three is we have three steppings. First, we build the foundations. Last years, we built the foundation, the infrastructures like cloud. Cloud is very important thing. How we not to, because every city want to build for example, like data centers, and then the fact they only have room server. So because of that, we provide the cloud, so that every city can use our clouds. We with the AWS together built we call the West Java Cloud. And then the other thing is the next thing is after we have the infrastructure, so we develop some services to the citizens. Yeah, we develop the communication access, yeah, to the citizens. Many people live in villages. Actually, we have 1,000 blank spot in West Java. So last year we provide more than 400 internet access to them. And after this, we provide the digital literates. And then after this, we provide some contents like e-commerce and IoT. And then because of that, our vision also, we need to build the digital more inclusive, not only for the city, for the people live in city, but also in the digital, in the villages. So the villages can get more benefits from the technology itself, not just only for chattings and maybe share some hogs, yeah. Because of that, we provide the literacy digital for the people live in the villages using our technologies. Yeah. Last year we deliver more than 40,000 smartphones to the community leader, yeah, per RW. Yeah. With this, we can access more information from the growth area, and then they can also give me some feedback to governments. And then we deliver some services like from permits, because you know from the Pangandaran into the Bandung we need 6 hours. Yeah.
Yes.
So within the technology, we use the technology. We just click, maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes, we can get more benefit from them. For example, like a permit.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's
yes. So that's great, Pak Setiaji. I really like how you mentioned about the 360. So you're looking at it from a holistic point of view, and how you also mentioned about the need for technological access and delivering the services to the villages. So not just to the urban centers. And that's great that you're working with local community leaders and ensuring that not only they have the technology, but also that they have the digital literacy and the capacity as well. And you also mentioned something about a crisis, COVID-19, and how it has impacted some of the lives, not just, of course, not just in West Java, but all over Indonesia and all over the world. And this is where I want to turn the next question to AWS. So Lee Chu, we've seen globally how COVID-19 has impacted citizens and countries to various extents, right? So we also know from Pa Emil and Pa Setiaji that technology can help governments, but how do you think technology can help government leaders like Pa Emil and Pa Setiaji? How can technology help them keep their visions on track? While, you know, at the same time, we do have these inequalities, right? Pa Setiaji mentioned the unequal access between rural and urban areas. There's also the gap between young and old. How can technology help to keep the government ensure that these progresses are on track? Lee Chu, please.
Yeah, sure. So Dr. Mulia, you're right. You know, over the last 6 months with the pandemic, what we're seeing is that the speed of digital transformation and innovation across public sector is unprecedented. We've seen more innovation in the last 2 months than we've seen in the last 2 years. So if you know, how is technology actually helping to put in place the vision? I would say that it has accelerated many of these thoughts behind digital government and so forth. We've also learned that customers across government agencies or healthcare or research communities are using AWS and the cloud for scale, for speed, and for agility as they responded to the COVID-19 needs. So in my mind, as I interacted with the customers across ASEAN, a few things came up as top priorities, very similar to what we've heard, you know, the VG as well, the Vice Governor, as well as what Satyaji has been talking about. So digital innovation and transformation, healthcare, remote learning, and the whole concept of workforce redevelopment have become top of mind. So how does technology help then? I mean, you've heard a little bit from our esteemed panelists here, but I'll offer up some other observations. One is open source solutions and open data allows governments, researchers, service providers to actually benefit from collective learning. And in many ways, they act as catalysts to accelerate the innovation and the citizen services that, Satyaji was talking about. Our learning through this pandemic is that government use open source services to address mission critical community needs because there was just a compression of time in terms of having everything to be stood up for the needs of the citizens. And this whole thought that we don't really need bespoke services for everything. We do want solutions to be made available quickly. So we see governments in the UK, in Australia, in Canada, in Singapore, building open source solutions to facilitate information sharing. So the good news is that they're all for sharing and they're all for helping each other to deal with the crisis, better and quicker. So at the end of May, what we did in AWS, in order to accelerate all these combined responses to COVID, we launched a website called the Open Government Solutions, basically to bring together examples of all these open code tools, standards, etc. So that's one dimension of open source solutions. I also mentioned open data. So on open data, and if I give an example of health systems, for example, so health systems around the world use cloud technology to process large data sets. And I'm quite sure if you talk to the Vice Governor and you talk to Satyaji further, they would talk about the importance of having the right technology to manage data. So from our perspective at the global level, we work with World Health Organization to leverage the cloud to build large-scale data lakes so that we can aggregate epidemiological country data to track the spread of the virus. And we launch a situational dashboard with them where countries can then take a look at that data and then look at what interventions are working. The other thing that is important to note is that cloud is a great equalizer for anyone, from students in the dorm to developers, from startups to governments and enterprises. And it is no longer the case whereby we need to have the capacity to buy, own, and maintain data centers in order to test ideas. So like the Vice Governor was saying, you can do it at your own pace. And young companies can have the opportunity to prove to investors that they can have a viable model too. And talking about, local ed tech startups, I just want to call out SIMA Online. So SIMA Online is a local Indonesian startup that's worked with AWS. They have been adopted by 500 primary, secondary schools, and we know they have onboarded a lot more. As the Indonesian government transition into online teaching. That's just one example of how
These are all great examples. Thank you for sharing that, Li Chu. I really like the point that you made at the beginning also about how there was so many innovations in the last 2 months. So clearly, crisis or necessity is the mother of invention, but we also have technology as the great leveler. As you said, you have great examples from healthcare, from education, cloud as a great equalizer, and making sure that everyone has great access wherever they are. So jumping off from that note, because we talked about COVID, and my next question is for Mas Rama from Clue. We know that Indonesia, it is a fertile country, but it's also we face a lot of different kind of crises here, including disasters, and so COVID is just one of them, and we've always kind of like bounced back. So jumping off from that example about technology and COVID, so looking at various crises or necessity kind of situations that have been faced in Indonesia, what do you think, or what are your views, or can you tell us some of the promising initiatives that governments have taken to respond to various crises, so not just COVID? Please, Mas Rama.
Yes, thank you. So we've been dealing a lot with natural disasters, crisis, working with the national disaster agencies since about 2016. And we see that there is a huge jump in terms of innovations since then until right now, during the COVID-19 pandemic. So especially right now, back in the days is more on how we grab data from using crowdsourcing and people reporting and things like that, where the infrastructure is quite difficult. But now government is more open in terms of digital transformation, not only digital, but going into AI, machine learning, algorithm, and so on. IoT starting to be implemented. And that initiative is within the span of 6 months, in the past 6 months.
Right.
We see that changes already. And in the future, we see that as a leapfrog. You know, it's not only like a gradual proceeding, but it's a huge jump. We see that AI capabilities for surveillance, for medications, education, and so on will be utilized for government. And it's very exciting to see what health in the future health. And I also want to say that we are very focused on smart city, right? So from day one, our mission is to actually implement smart cities all over Indonesia and create Indonesia as a smart nation. So we built a platform where there is a citizen reporting app, there is all the ecosystem of smart city, AI capability for computer vision, video analytics, IoT sensors, BI dashboard, mobile workforce, where everything is all integrated, and it's, how do you say that? It's collaborating between each other. So industries, citizens, government can collaborate within one platform. And this is actually how our vision for Indonesia Smart Nation. So everybody can collaborate within one platform, and by having that solving problem together, everything can be done faster as well as very effective. And we're very glad to see that from Pak Emil Dardak, the vision of East Java as well, and Pak Astiaji from day one, we're working for Jakarta Smart City until today. Also from AWS for the support. And I see that there is a huge potential for Indonesia in terms of digital transformation. And this COVID-19 situations, we see that as a blessing in disguise in terms of our digital transformation for Indonesia.
Right, so it is an opportunity. I remember a quote that I heard some time ago, that a crisis, it's a terrible thing to waste crisis, right? So we are already saddened by the crisis. At least what we should do is take the opportunity to become better out of it. And from your explanation, it's great to see so many innovations happening in the field of disaster management, enabling us to leapfrog. So basically using this crisis as an opportunity to come out and bounce back better. And I really like what you mentioned about a multi-stakeholder platform for collaboration. I think that's great. And that would be key to ensuring a great service delivery. So, of course, a public service is provided by the government, but in the provision of it, it needs the role of other people in the co-creation of these public services. And that's where I think we should move on to the second part of the discussion itself, where we talk more specifically about the practicalities of public service delivery. And here is where I want to go back to Vice Governor Emil. Pak Emil, specifically talking about the delivery of public services, right? Now, so going back to your vision that you mentioned at the beginning, and then looking forward, how do you think technology can help you achieve those visions and unlock new forms of public service delivery?
Yeah, I think the very important starting point is to really understand what we're trying to do. All too often, we believe that automating things looks cool, it sounds savvy technologically, but what does it bring? You see, now I think, and this is a challenge in any kind of IT interventions. You know, I had I was fortunate to be in a batch of project management master's degree program at Oxford, and I was in the same cohort as those who led major transformation projects in IT in major organizations. You can say like a major oil and gas company or banking, and even from the banking company, say banking is more of an IT business nowadays instead of just finance. You see, banking is really predominantly IT in the service. And with many other IT projects, and my dissertation at Oxford was about how there is failure in IT major projects because we underestimated the whole human-machine interaction. Right. So we assume that technology is automatically superior than a non-technology based system when it doesn't work that way, you see. So the thing is, we need to first comprehend how the system works manually and find what are the problems and formulate that and bring in technology and get the people to really believe in the solution, that the solution makes it better. I took a case of the London ambulance automation system in 1996, which didn't work at that time for the National Health Services because it was, these automated algorithms back at that time, seemed to be competing with the wisdom of those who are behind the wheels, who know where to bring the patient to the nearest service, while the algorithms has limitations that ended up making patients being sent to places that are not necessarily the best. I mean, it can look nearer on the map, but it's not nearer in reality. There is a lot of aspects such as the readiness of the facility, the closeness of the people to the recipient organization. Now, this whole concerns wisdom of the manual system cannot be ruled out entirely, and we say that your whole manual system doesn't work, you see. And when somebody comes with this style of being a very tech savvy people coming to you and saying that your system is flawed, I'm going to make it better, and that whole attitude's not going to work. So it really has to come from within the people. So a crisis is like now. I mean, now we realize that the COVID-19 is going to unlock that people start to realize that distance learning is not a buzz thing. It's not just for making things look cool. You see, it's a necessity. Had we invested earlier on better distance learning, what happened is people are now demonstrating on the streets because they believe I didn't pay just to have my school send me PDF material every day and for me to just send back the answers. I don't think it's worth the money I'm paying to the schools, to the universities. I don't think that listening to the lecturer speaking on the webinar it gives value to my money. For example, I would have been better off having a pre-recorded session and watching it at my own pace instead of just having to do it on real time just for the sake of being in the class. So doing distance learning is not the same as just doing what is in the classroom and then doing it throughout the internet. There needs to be a lot more, and that's why we're working with experts in the education field to really change the whole pedagogical aspects into learning. That's just an example too. We know that right now COVID-19 cases are still rising. Pak Ridwan Kamil, the governor, mentioned that there is also some alert in West Java. Also in Central Java, the number is rising. In East Java, we're winner in terms of COVID-19, which is not something to be proud about. But then I realized, I came to the market, I visited the market, everything looks perfect. There is people with uniforms standing in front of the market using thermal guns, checking anyone, whether they have, fever above certain, you see. And then also they have sink with water for people to wash their hand, and they check whether they wear a mask. Looks good. When you see that, you see, okay, this is good. But we put in CCTVs with Pak Rama's colleague who's now working on an AI company. I think Pak Rama knows who they are. So we put an AI, artificial intelligence built in to check the compliance of people in wearing masks. And it turns out that more are violating instead of adhering to the rules. And you can't see that. So what we're doing right now is we're pushing for markets, especially within the greater Surabaya area, the traditional markets, to put in CCTV, not to the whole block, but in places where there's a lot of crowd, so that it automatically counts the number of people who's not wearing masks and generate a daily report. They give it to the head of police, to the mayor, to the head of the market office department, the trade office, and so they can evaluate whether the people on the ground are really working or not. Now, of course, there's whole technological nuance, to save costs and to save on technological investment. I was saying, look, we don't have to stream it real time because there's bandwidth issue and so on and so forth. Why don't we just copy the file and then send it to the AI processor, and then they would run it? But then there was a whole lot issue because the way it works is it's stream and counted at the same time. But these are all technological nuance, so that we are still working on it. But the thing is, imagine after this, we will have CCTVs installed in all the markets, right? Can you imagine what kind of knowledge we can generate to learn better about the market? So when COVID-19 say hopefully it's over, then we can utilize those visual artificial intelligence for a lot more different things. Like Ms. Lee Chu is working with WWF, I think, on mapping the visual facial recognition of orangutans, so that they can ensure that these orangutans are preserved well, conserved well. And we tried it ourselves. The machine beats us because we said, look, how can we not differentiate orangutan one from another? The fact is we couldn't. The machine did it a lot better than us. So that's where this crisis can become an opportunity if we do something. So let's invest during the crisis, and then make sure those investments are not going to be worthless after the crisis.
That's a great point.
That's the thing.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really like your point specifically about technology. We should not adopt technology just for technology's sake, just for the sake of being cool. But there is an aspect where technology merges together with the human aspects, and that's when you can definitely really make positive and maximum use of technology for a great impact. So moving on, based on that note, the next question is for Pak Setiaji. Basically, same question, Pak Setiaji. In terms of technological infrastructure, how do you think some of the challenges that you view in implementing public service delivery, or even innovating to create better delivery for public service? So what are some of the challenges in terms specifically about technological infrastructure? Please, Pak Setiaji.
Maybe we need to flashback. When I arrived 1 year and 3 months ago to the West Java, what we need to check the reality of the infrastructure's facility, especially for technology in West Java. So I did like a roadshow to the 27 cities and regencies, and mostly the issue is about the infrastructures is the data centers, the servers and infrastructures of the computing and etc. And then the next is about the communication access, internet. Because in West Java we have many mountains and forest and etc. So
Beautiful place.
yes, so the first thing we need to provide the communication access, for example, like internet access using the fiber or wireless. And then the second thing is data centers. Every city want to build data centers, but in the fact, they only have server rooms or farm servers. Because of that, we have some plan to build, we call it the West Java cloud. We with AWS together build these infrastructures in West Java, and then we combine using the hybrids. So the issue about the infrastructures mean not only about the server itself, but also the humans to maintain and etc. And also the budgets. And the important thing is security. So with the cloud, we believe the security is very secure. So because when we build the cloud, the important thing is to special to think about the secures. And after that, after we have the cloud and communication access, and after this we build like application and content on top of that, like data analytics, big data. You know, we have now the waste data. You know, the waste data every days we need to provide around 100 terabyte storage. Yeah,
That's a
sorry,
lot.
gigabyte. So
Wow.
in 1 year, we need to provide 31 terabyte. This is only one data. With this data, so we can use for the monitors, the PSBB, the lockdown, and etc. So we can evaluate the mobility of the peoples. And the next thing, the infrastructures of the CCTV, public infrastructures like smart pole, etc. So with this access, we can provide not only communication, information, and the important thing is the hogs. Because you know, after the COVID, we have around 2,600 information about the hogs in the West Java.
Wow, right. That's
So,
very concerning.
Yeah, we also concerned about that. So we provide the information. We use the application we call the Sapa Warga. We installed in the smartphones. So with this information, so we can fight the COVID-19 and also the fake news. That's it.
Right. Those are very good points, Pak Setiaji. You mentioned about cloud and some of the advantages of using these cloud technology. So my next question is to AWS, to Ms. Lee Chu, based on the descriptions that Vice Governor and Pastiaji has mentioned before about this technology. So more specifically about cloud technology, Pastiaji mentioned some of its advantages like security and ability to handle loads and loads of data. What more can actually be done with these cloud-enabled technology? For example, through data analytics or machine learning, what are the possibilities? Lee Chu, please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. You know, since our inception as an organization, we have innovated more than 125 services to cloud services to help customers. And it's going to be a challenge for me to really call out the power of all that. But I want to highlight analytics and machine learning, as you rightly pointed out. It is amazing how much analytics are being done in the cloud these days, because it is now easy to collect, to store, to analyze, to share, and also more cost effective. Machine learning is still in its infancy. And as AWS, we are actively working on machine learning. The Vice Governor talked about World Wildlife Fund. This is an organization that have leveraged our services in SageMaker to look at how they can cut down the time to manually analyze orangutans and so forth. That's just one use case. In our mind, if we want more customers to benefit from machine learning capabilities, we need to empower everyday developers and scientists. Not, we don't have a lot of data scientists, and not everybody's going to be able to build algorithms and so forth. So in our minds, at the end of last year at our re:Invent, we announced the Amazon SageMaker Studio. The whole idea is that we want developers to be able to work with machine learning as a software workflow with more automation, with more productive cycles as they iterate the process. So it is bringing the power of machine learning to the hands of every developer. If you allow me, I'll just quote one example where machine learning had actually been very well used. And this is in the state of Telangana in India. It was a task force led by the Indian National Association of Software and Service Companies. We were asked to support them to deploy within 5 days the COVID-19 data platform on a secure data lake. And what this does now is it offers more than 10 machine learning models for the COVID-19 response, which also includes decision-making on how to manage the lockdown, how to look at managing territories that are recovering within the state. So, while there's an incredible amount of progress being made in organizations using machine learning and governments using machine learning, I think we're still relatively at the beginning. We have about twice as much machine learning run on AWS, but it's still early. And so I think it offers great opportunities.
That is very promising and very exciting to hear, Li Chu, that we are just at the beginning. We are just at the infancy, and we've already seen so much progress, so much promise. And I'll continue to ask you a little bit more questions, but let me just take this opportunity to remind everyone who is here, all the participants, that you can pose your questions to any of the panelists. So just use the Q&A panel and just write any questions that you want to ask. If you can identify which panelist you would like your questions to respond to your question, please write it so in the question and answer. And so we'll come back to those questions after the end of the discussion, which will be coming up soon. So let me get back to Li Chu. We talked about the technology, right? And the possibilities of machine learning and data analytics. You've also mentioned some of the descriptions of the issues that East Java and West Java are facing right now. So for example, as Emil mentioned about the physical restrictions, and also in the markets, for example, how to ensure that people adhere to some of these physical restriction requirements in public places. We've also mentioned Pastiaji mention about hoax or the need for digital literacy. So, given the wide experience of AWS, can you tell us a little bit more of what are some of the ways to overcome these issues? Some of these that I mentioned are just examples, but different kind of issues that governments are facing, including East Java and West Java. What are some of the ways to overcome these issues that possibly East Java and West Java can adopt? Maybe you can give like global references if you can.
Yeah, so I would say that, I'm really humbled by what I've heard from the Vice Governor and from Pak Setiaji. And I don't profess to say that I have the solutions for that. But I would say that, customers have told us as they think about putting solutions together, digital solutions together for their citizens, there are a few key things which we have seen demonstrated, through the sharing of the Vice Governor as well as Pak Setiaji as well. The first is that you need to have a clear vision an expectation of what you want to do. And it's also what the Vice Governor said earlier. You need to know what you want. It's not just a cool thing. So any successful digital transformation that we have seen, whether in the government or in organizations, start with a clear vision and a true commitment to technology, in this case, to the cloud. It also starts, in many cases, with an aggressive top-down goal. So, it is a vision coupled with an execution focus to say, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to do it, and within what time frame. I think Pak Setiaji also alluded to the fact that training and getting people skilled is important, and this is top of mind for many governments right now. We think that for any transformation to happen, it needs to have people who are trained on the cloud, comfortable with the concepts of the new technology. To date, we have hundreds of thousands of students, as well as thousands of educators enrolled in the AWS Educate program. The Malang example that the Vice Governor gave is an example where we built the cloud curriculum into the vocational institutions. So as we think about setting together the digital agenda, first having that vision, having that aggressive top-down goal, having the cloud skills, and then last but not least is not having yourself to be too paralyzed by the fact that you can't do everything and you can't do everything quickly, because it takes steps, and that's kind of like how people have become successful as they implement this. So I would venture those are some thoughts, and as governments look at their journey and as organizations look at how to provide and connect to the citizens, maybe these thoughts would be helpful.
Right, I think these are very helpful, having a clear vision and also being realistic, optimistic, but having it balanced with some views of how to make it happen. I think these are very good examples and tips. And I would like to also call on Clue, Rama, same question that I've posed to Li Chu previously. So basically based on, Clue has been working on various projects, in different places. What are some of the ways to overcome these issues that you have learned from the different projects and initiatives that you've worked with? Please.
So, especially for this COVID-19 solutions, we see that AI capabilities is unlimited. There is a lot of things that we can do with AI. The Vice Governor mentioned about the mass detections. What we have is actually seeing AI growth as well as its evolution. AI will evolve to integrate with other devices such as like sensors. So right now, similar to what the Vice Governor mentioned, we have initiatives in the market as well. So capturing all of the visitors, whether they are wearing masks or not, whether they're social distancing or not, violating or not, but we integrate those with our IoT sensors. So we have thermal camera, we have the speaker, how do you call it, the smart speaker. So it's an automatic warning system when they're not wearing masks using AI as well. So everything is more automated, because we see that it's not only capturing the problems, not only capturing the violations, but actually how AI can help government to solve the problems. That's why we provide the mobile workforce. We provide the IoT to actually automate all these things. This is why we see an ecosystem of solutions such as Clue can be beneficial for government. We work with more than 150 government as well as cities in Indonesia, and we see that they're more open right now towards AI capabilities and machine learning and IoTs and so on. And we see that there's a huge prospect here. Thanks also to AWS for supporting us in terms of cloud and everything like that. We see, though we hope in the future there is, even though the future is cloud, But I know the regulations in Indonesia in terms of cloud is still, there's on-premise needs still, especially for maybe a more central government. So hopefully in the future, AWS can provide an on-premise solutions also, so we can leverage that into our platform.
That's great. Thank you, Mas Rama. Okay, we have some questions already. 2 questions in the Q&A, and I think there's one in the chat. I'll read the one in the Q&A first. The first one is rather straightforward. Using technology, what both AWS and Clue can offer to government to fight COVID-19? So I think this question is quite clear to AWS and Clue. What can you provide or offer to governments through technology? Maybe I'll give it to Li Chu first.
All right. So what technology is being offered? Actually, I was mentioning that we have 175 services, and in many cases, our elastic compute cloud, the S3 storage, as well as our relational databases like Aurora and all that, those are very well accepted and used across the different community. And I also mentioned SageMaker, which is a machine learning tool that we are currently using to help customers look at how do they take benefits out of AI and machine learning, and a lot more.
Yes, so many technologies. Maybe you can provide like a website that the participants can refer to for them to browse or learn about these technologies that AWS offers.
Yeah, absolutely. Just go and Google AWS, and all the services and all the products are listed there in a lot of detail.
Right.
We believe in sharing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, great. So the second question, I'm going to read a question from the webinar chat. This is also quite straightforward, and the question is to Clue. Which AI engine is being used by Clue? So, Mas Rama, please.
So maybe also answering the first questions. If you see our website at clue.co.id, we have a COVID-19 sections specifically for COVID-19 solutions. So the solution is not only for AI, but we also have citizen participation reports that is being used by the task force of COVID-19 right now in the central government. People can report problems regarding people that is not social distancing, not wearing masks, and so on. We also provide an AI video analytics CCTVs to actually capture those violations as well, and combine it with our IoT sensors for like warning, intrusion, automatic warning. But recently, for new normal, we introduced our thermal scanner, automatic thermal scanner that is used a lot in office space right now, public space as well, to capture the temperature of all of the visitors. This is also combined with AI capabilities, so we capture the facial recognition, mask detections, but also the thermal as well. Whenever there is someone with high temperature, we can capture the face, and then we can connect right away to the database, or we can directly send alert to the police officers to their mobile phone immediately. So everything is auto dispatch. It's going to be very fast because that's actually our core. Is actually the auto response system on all problems within the city, right? Because government
it's very exciting.
Very fast.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you, Mas Rama. So we have time for just one more question. And this question is addressed to the government. So it's the same question. I will allow Pak Setiaji to answer first, and then I will let Pak Emil have the final word before we close. So basically the question is, in some places, senior citizens have difficulties in learning new technology. They're not familiar with things like cashless payments and digital or online public services. So how do the government address this issue? What are the strategies to make digital transformation more inclusive to all age groups? So Pak Haji, please.
Yeah, in West Java, we face this issue also. So when we delivers the smartphones to the community leaders, actually mostly of that is senior citizens. So we with some volunteers, IT volunteers, we have around 1,000 IT volunteers. with them to train for the senior citizens. And then the important thing is we built the applications from, actually this is user-centric. So we built more easy and also useful for them. Because of that, they interest to use this because they have like some informations, many useful informations. And we have some testimony before they didn't like to use the smartphone, but now they use this every day to get the information because this is the real and also the important thing, information from them. And then also we provide like some features for the blind people. Yeah, for Pico bars, we provide the technology so the blind people, disabled, and etc. can use this. So not only for the senior citizen, we also this is friendly also for the disabled. Yeah.
Also, great. Thanks very much, Pak Setiaji. So since we are almost out of time, so I will give the last chance to answer to Pak Emil, Mr. Vice Governor. Same question. How has the government of East Java been building the digital literacy across all age groups?
Well, I think when you see East Java, it's very diverse. You'll find science Olympic winners there, and you'll also find people who barely finish primary school in East Java. So it's a very, wide gap. So that would also affect the digital literacy. When I spoke in Singapore for the AWS Summit, I mentioned that the government is actually more advanced than the citizen in terms of digital adoption. So in a good way, that means that the government is actually spearheading the transformation. But we cannot, I think I like to appreciate what Pak Setiaji is doing in West Java, which is ensuring no one is left behind. Those with special needs should not be marginalized by the shift towards technology. And this is very important. Now, I think West Java has explained very clearly that you can't just jump into technology right away without having people to help them. Now, this can work assuming that the people who are going to use the technology, they have the capability to learn. The truth is they do have, but sometimes, for example, people find it difficult to do things through apps. For example, they find difficulties in transacting online, but they find that doing online orders are easy. So sometimes we use chat messaging apps as an alternative instead of using a full-fledged online e-commerce system, for example. That's what we did with the in order to stabilize and prices of food during the mobility limitations period. In Surabaya and the greater Surabaya area, we also offer a simpler model, which is based on chat messaging system, so they can just order from there. It's actually not high tech, you see, but it is digital. You have to admit it is digital, but it's not automated. Now, the spectrum of digitizing the society needs to be taken into account. I'm a firm believer, though, that we should not drag those who are ready just because there are people who aren't ready, because it's about nation's competitiveness. So we need to have the high-speed model. It can also entice people to learn quickly by looking at, but we need to make sure that we accommodate those who are not able to take on that track. That's why 62% of the villages in East Java has a telecom broadband connection. Now, I believe that we need to ensure that every of these villages have internet access to the home provided for free, as long as it is for learning and for public service. But how do we do it? Then we need to maybe do we used to have like WiMAX, for example, which is basically converting broadband into a wide spectrum Wi-Fi. Now, that's something we're seriously looking at right now, because by doing that, we can ensure that access is given to every area. So and I also remember what CLU was doing in Jakarta, because when I first became a mayor, the first team I contacted was Clue. And then we had the help. Clue helped us a lot with for free as a starter to provide us. But at that time, we didn't have the infrastructure. In Trenggalek, we didn't have HSDPA because it wasn't 4G at the time. So when I rolled it out, I was waiting for people to complain, and nobody was complaining. I was like, look, we have Clue now. Try it, try it. But then, after 1 year, we promoted government services, everything through digital, so that citizens realize that if you don't embrace this digitization, you'll be left behind. You'll be disadvantaged. It's true. You will be disadvantaged. That's a painful truth that has to be swallowed by everyone. But in a way, when my vice mayor actually tried it again with Clue, that time now we already have 4G to almost all the major settlements within Trenggalek area, and this rate of participation was higher at that time. So it's you know, when you talk about digital technology, 6 months to 1 year can make a big difference. The infrastructure matters. The commitment from the government matters, because I told Telkomsel at the time, please put on 4G in my regency, because we are the southernmost region, furthermost from Surabaya. But I said, look, I will commit to you that I will increase all the digital government services by 10 times, I said. So this will increase your subscriber base. And they agree, and they put in 4G in Trenggalek. Of course, now it's no longer special because 4G is everywhere. But back in 2016, it was special.
Yes. So thanks very much, Vice Governor Emil. I think on that note, we are also at the end of the time for this session. It has been a great conversation, and we have learned a lot from great speakers. Vice Governor Emil, thank you very much. Pak Setiaji, thank you. Li Chu from AWS, Rama from Clue. We have learned a lot today about the importance of technology and how it can help us become the great leveler in addressing crises and bouncing back better. Of course, this all comes back to what Pa Emil said. Technology has to link together with the people themselves, and this all comes back to us. The government has commitment, the private sector has commitment. Let's make it happen. So on that note, everyone, thank you very much for joining this session. The participants, thank you for your questions as well. GovInsider, you have been following GovInsider Live Indonesia, and this session we have discussed about city transformation. Thank you very much. Have a great morning and have a great rest of your day, and please be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Emil, Pak Setiaji.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mbak.